Today on Chris Dyer's Creative Friends.
You need the commercial success, obviously. We want to make a living being artists. So I was immediately hooked to designing and rendering sculptures every day. I'd make myself design them in 3D so they could be made. And I never wanted to let the inner child stuff go, because I think you realize that in life. It's like, here's childhood, your inner child stuff, which is playful and fun. And then you look at the adults and like, definitely don't want to do that.
No.
I mean, AI came along at a great time. I mean, who would have thought we'd have something like this, in our lives? I feel like I already was in my heart, already feeling super connected to things, but it just exposed those connections, to the larger picture of life, of God, of seeing, the divinity in creation, of seeing interconnectedness, of having visionary experiences of who we are, what this life is about.
Yeah, nice. Well, thank you so much for having me over your house, Ken.
100%. No, I'm so excited, man. So glad we finally get to connect. I know I was talking on Instagram a bit before I moved out, and it's just awesome.
Yeah, no, I was so stoked to see that you moved not only to St. Pete, but to Gulfport, which is the neighborhood that I live in.
Love Gulfport. Oh my gosh. It's like Pleasantville.
Yeah, no, it's super cute. What brought you here to St. Pete, Florida?
So literally my friends, Jenna and Raleigh, or Nicole, I connected with them when I moved down to Miami a few months ago, and we just became really good friends. And at a certain point, they visited me in Miami, actually, when I was first there. So we hung out at my apartment, hung out in Wynwood, and then they said, hey, why don't you come to St. Pete at some point? And then another friend of mine I know on Insta, Jason Hackenworth, I reached out to him. I hadn't seen his stuff in a while, and I thought he was in Miami, but then turned out he was here. So I'm like, I got to go to St. Pete's.
Okay.
So I came out for a weekend and immediately fell in love.
Nice. That's awesome. Where were you living before, apart from your Miami sculptures you were doing out there?
Yeah, so I basically have been in New Hampshire for many years, and we had a farm there for about the last 10 years. Beautiful studio set up out there. We had animals. I had goats, chickens, geese, and it was quite nice.
Sounds lovely.
Yeah, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. I loved it. And then, unfortunately, my wife passed this summer from cancer.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you, yeah. And we were married 30 years, so the whole thing was terribly shocking, really shocking. And just through processing that and then coming down for Art Basel, getting exposed to, what it felt like to be down here in the warm weather. It was beautiful. I was in Coconut Grove. And then I had a couple sculptures over at the Hiley House that were installed just like a week before. So I went over to Hiley House and I was like, oh, I could just get an apartment here. There's a brand new apartment building in Wynwood. And then I moved in there and was there for 3 months.
Okay. How was living in Miami for 3 months, in Wynwood itself?
So I really love the energy. The art there is incredible. And at one point I really just had this feeling of thinking back to some of the masters, like Botticelli and Raphael and some of those artists in the Renaissance. If they could see that display of incredible graffiti everywhere, how blown away they would be. And I really just had that feeling like a Renaissance in Miami of this whole expression of, the graffiti and the street art. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's a new movement.
Yeah,
or generally new,
Yeah, I love being, and it was great to be like immersed in that. I really did enjoy that. I think going from a farm where with my dog, who's a golden doodle, 11 years old, Lulu, we could just walk outside, all of a sudden now being in an apartment, where it's beautiful building and great amenities, but to, go in an elevator and then very urban environment, it wasn't, I just started feeling like I needed to get back out where I could have a yard and out in the country more. So
Yeah, there's something beautiful about being in the countryside and do that whole self-sustenance farm and animals and food. I think it's what we all want as we get older.
Yeah.
You kind of be like, I miss human beings, I suppose, and let's go
True.
back and interact with people. And it's not like St. Pete or Gulfport is like super city mode, suffocating. It's still very natural, and there's ocean not far away.
Exactly. No, like, I mean, the farm was incredible for the nature aspect, but then winter was coming, and after being down in Miami, I was like, oh my gosh, it's going to be long and dark and bleak. It was already getting dark at 4, and then I remember going to my friend's cafe, Cafe Killam, this Turkish cafe in Portsmouth. I had gone there for years, and talking to some guys, and their eyes are already starting to twitch. And it was just the beginning of December, you know?
Yeah.
They're like unshaven, their eyes are twitching, and they're like frazzled. And I'm like, dude, winter hasn't even really started yet.
Yeah, we got another 3 to 4 months of this.
Oh, right, exactly. Like going into a cave, you know?
Yeah, as a Montrealer, I know how it is, and I couldn't do winters in Montreal anymore, and I'm so happy to have endless summer here, just different degrees of summer and heat.
So gorgeous.
I love it here. Go give thanks.
They have peacocks literally wandering the streets, beautiful white cranes.
Like wild, right? Wild
Beautiful.
peacocks.
Tropical plants. I just can't get an eye of bamboo in the backyard, little lizards running around. I mean, that's just the kind of thing. It puts me back in my childhood because I remember we visited Sarasota and Disney World as kids, and it just puts you in that different place, you know?
Yeah.
It's magical.
It's so magical. Like as a kid, I would come from Peru to Florida, and I was like, wow, that magical land of sun and palm trees and ocean and but funny, happy characters. I would imagine as somebody who does the characters that you do, being in the same place that Disney and all these magical lands are at, it's kind of like connected.
100%. No, that's interesting. Yeah, because I did really enjoy Disney World as a kid. And I don't know how much that's played into influencing me. Obviously a bit, because I do pull from that with some of my characters. Oh, shoot, we got the movers.
Yeah, movers all right?
Yeah, movers are here.
Okay, cool. Let's do a little break and we'll go back.
Eyebrow.
Well, Ken is brand new in this neighborhood. He just moved to this house, and he's got some furniture being delivered right now as we do this interview. So I'm going to take the opportunity to thank my sponsors, Yak Snacks. Yak Snacks is a psilocybin mushrooms that has little gummies. They're delicious. They're 1/4 of a gram each. I've been eating them at the beginning of each show to show my love and support for these dear people, a lovely couple from Denver and Colorado that been supporting this show, and I'm super grateful. I love their product. It puts me in a really good mood. It starts hitting me around like an hour and a half, so at the end of the show you might see a little bit of an extra sparkle in my eyes, but it's all good vibes and connection to the spiritual world that I believe we're all from. So, salute. Very delicious. I usually offer to my guests. Ken said that he would be okay today without doing it, so we'll go back to our conversation.
Yes, you are, sir.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got the good, you definitely have like, what is that, like a talk show persona.
Oh, well, I'm a cartoon character, first and foremost. Second, I'm a human. Third, an artist. Fourth, talk show host.
Yeah, like, yeah, I can see the mix of the three, you know?
I don't know what I am.
The shaman, cartoon, game show host. No, a talk show host, not game show.
Different archetypes, but I used different branches of my tree for different expressions. But back to you. Thank you once again for having me here in your home for this conversation on your birthday. Happy birthday.
Whoa, happy birthday, world.
Woo!
I love it. Only 47. It's amazing.
47?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. You know, a little close enough to me. I have my backpack somewhere around here. Where's my backpack, Paulina? You take my backpack?
Yeah, I wanted to have a shot.
Because I got him a present.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You brought this up a couple times already, So I thought you were
Oh
the
my gosh,
serving
are you
of
kidding
my
me?
Leonard Roy.
Oh, thank you so much. I love this,
'Cause
man.
you mentioned a couple of times how you thought it was so funny
Wow,
that
yeah.
Mr. Spock has music. So this is a double record
Wow.
of Mr. Spock music.
Wow.
It's a hard
This
to.
is so cool. I
Yeah.
love the cover.
Oh,
I love
no.
this typeface too.
Yeah, no, it's
Brings me
great.
back to my childhood.
And there's a lot of 60s
Oh my gosh, I
classic
love this.
songs.
Wow.
And do you have a
Oh, he
record
does like
player
a
yet?
Pat Boone song. No, I gotta get a record player now.
Gotta get. Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
One more thing, but you know, you got a new home. Get a
Wow,
little.
Twinkle Twinkle Little Earth. All right. Mission Impossible. Wow, I love that. Thank you so much.
There is one song where he arrives to a dead planet, and he's like,
Oh.
"Oh my God, this planet has died, and
Damn.
it's dead. It's supposed to be planet Earth in the future
Right.
if we don't take care of it and stuff."
Like Planet of the Apes type situation, maybe.
Yeah, something
Yeah.
like that. He projected into the future. So let's
Wow.
talk a little bit about your art.
Yeah.
You're a great artist. It seems like you've had a career that spanned many years. How long have you been doing your art? You've done so many mediums, paintings, sculptures, rugs, etc. Where did it
yeah.
all start?
Yeah. So it's interesting. I mean, literally, like this phase of my work that you see here, I've pretty much done in the last 10 years or so.
Okay.
And then prior to that, I was doing design, like web design, digital design. I did that for years as a career, to take care of my family. And then before that, I had worked for some artists in their studios. I worked at a bronze foundry one summer. The artist was Anthony Caro, who was a formal sculptor, and William Tuckerman was another artist. We did their bronze work. So that was like hands-on, like bronze chasing.
So you were very, exposed to what it is to be a sculptor.
Exactly. I worked in different materials, and really where I discovered and I originally went to school for architecture. So I did a year of architecture in Ohio, Miami of Ohio. And then after doing a year, I got kicked out basically.
How come?
Back in my crazy days. I think I just drank too much at certain points, and I acted out. I remember I broke somebody's nose, things like that. And so they voted me off the island. You know?
Wow.
Yeah,
Damn.
unfortunately.
You're so wild.
I know. But I realized at that point the next year was going to be a lot of memorization of architectural history versus what I really loved doing was the hands-on making of models and visualizing things, making things. And so at that point I was like, I need to go to art school. So I applied different places. I got accepted into Alfred University, upstate New York, huge ceramics school, and beautiful big round building. And the art building and the facilities were amazing. So I ended up landing there. I loved it. Just the whole idea of being able to wake up every morning, go into these great studios, great facilities. It was like a dream come true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What age is this?
That was in my, college 20s.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Nice. So did you study ceramics or something else?
No, so I started out, transition into art school was a little strange, a little different. I just remember the first semester being kind of lost. They just dropped you into like this space. It wasn't a great space, wasn't a great like studio. It was just this little 10 by 10 spot in the middle of this room with everybody else. And so that was a little strange. But after that, I got acclimated and I ended up really liking video. I got into experimental video for like 2 years. Very
Cool.
immersive program. And we had this thing called the Sandine processor, which was actually like the person that made it was my teacher's dad. And so he had made this thing called the Boda vocoder. And so it was old school like things, cables that you plug into these little boxes, and you're mixing sound waves, like triangular waves, square waves.
Wow.
To make sounds
Sounds like a Pink Floyd situation.
It was totally like Pink Floyd, which I love Pink Floyd, so it was perfect. And so we're plugging in all this stuff, but then it would make also abstract visual. So it would be sound and video together. And, like we're inspired by people like Kraftwerk at the time, things like that. And then there was a pretty active experimental video scene happening in upstate New York at that point. But it was funny because I noticed as we did these shows, all the artists, including my teacher, that were into this video stuff had one lazy eye.
Huh.
So their other eye was fine, but they all had like something going on with one of their eyes. Like 3 or 4 people.
I wonder if it makes him look at the video differently.
Maybe. That could be it. I'm not sure. But I think it was sophomore or junior year, I discovered the welding shop, fabrication, the fab shop, they called it. And so that was like welding steel together. And where we were based in upstate New York, there was a lot of steel scrap yards around. And I loved, one of the artists I really loved, inspired me the most when I was first starting out was David Smith. One of the first really well-known American metal sculptors. And it came, you know, basically rose up in like the 50s. And was really part of the abstract expressionists. He was based up in Lake George, New York, Bolton Landing. And then he got discovered. Some art critics noticed who he was, what he was doing, and then started showing in New York City. And I think he was part of Black Mountain College. So he was a huge inspiration to me, and I saw his work, and I got into the fab shop, and literally at that point, I just never left the fab shop. I'd go in there at like 8 or 9 in the morning. I'd be in there all day, welding, cutting stuff, just bringing in truckloads of steel and making sculptures. And I'd probably leave at 11 at night, many nights, you know.
You were addicted to art.
I was so addicted to art. I was super addicted to this process of the instant, like sort of like that quality where you're just instantly creating things. You know, the welding happens so quickly, and so you can just quickly like mock up ideas, come up with forms and shapes, and I loved it. I loved it, and honestly, I pretty much took over the building. There wasn't much room for other people to make pieces, but thankfully they only wanted to make small pieces, and I was making big pieces. So
was it the similar style of what you're doing today, or totally different?
It was definitely a little more different. I would say it was more found object art, is what you would call it, or more formal art. Experimenting. Another artist that really inspired me was Mark DeSuvero, who he would basically make very triangular structures out of I-beams, get the pieces massive, super giant, and then he might like balance something from the top that would move precariously with chains. He has pieces all over the world. He's done shows like in Golden State Park in San Francisco. He had a really great retrospective there. Anyways, I loved his work. So I would get into like, I really wanted to do things where I would get big pieces together, balanced in precarious ways with like weights that were like up in the air, or things projected. So the whole piece would be very dynamic.
Sounds dangerous,
and
too.
It was meant to feel dangerous. It was probably expressing my personality at the time where I liked that feeling. And so, yeah, and so it was interesting. So by the time I did my senior show, it took the whole department, like my teacher, they had assistant, they had like a big tractor and some things like that to help me install them. And after that, they put a rule, they made some sort of rule where you had to limit the size of pieces you could make in the fab shop. But yeah, I was making big ones. And I made things that bolted together. So like, for instance, there was some huge ice storm one winter, and there was huge pieces of wood that were like, even like railroad things that were like shredded. So I made one piece that was like it looked like almost like a big tripod, and then I had the huge tree stump, and I made like, I bolted brackets to it so then I could mount it to the triangle, and it would have like a huge, I had this thing with shovels, so I had like a giant like shovel thing that I made.
Yeah, it sounds surreal.
It was pretty surreal and fun, and yeah, this one had a big shattered piece of lumber that was like shooting up, and they were definitely, yeah, I felt like they were dynamic and fun, and they really were expressing what I wanted to do at that point, you know.
This sounds like there's a huge jump between that kind of sculpture and what you do today, which is a little bit more like pop art. Would you call your art pop art, or?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'd say the last about 3 years, definitely got focusing more on colors and pop art.
Yeah. Exactly. Would you say like sculpture is like your main form of expression, or?
Yeah, for some reason I love the idea of bringing things into reality, or bring things that is an idea 1 second, and next thing you know, it's something that you're going to run into, something that takes up space, like 3D. I like things that are heavy, but a physical expression of an idea in a material.
Have you ever not succeeded at bringing an idea from your head into sculpture form? Like, did something get too ambitious? Or have you always manifested?
No, not so much that. I think like initially my designs were probably more abstract, stainless steel based. And so, and then I would bring in different teams to help me fabricate them. And honestly, I would say I had really, I had connections in the industry that helped me find the right people to fabricate them. So I never ran into issues where I wasn't able to make what I wanted to do. So, I think that's been pretty successful.
You were making it yourself at the beginning with your own hands. You just need to find the metal, or then you would incorporate teams to help you do it?
Yeah. So basically, so that's a good question. So about 10 years ago, we had a farm. We found a farm in New Hampshire and had a great outbuilding. It was like 50 by 40 by 30 feet. And so I set up in there to weld, and I hadn't welded in years. So I started making pieces again. I was very excited. And previous to that, I never had a studio, but I remember at one point I got juried into a show, and literally it was like a scrap iron recycling place that let me weld there. And so I made pieces at that point for a show, but I hadn't had my own space in a while. So I was doing that, but I had a desire to make things on a larger scale. I wanted to make pieces that were more refined. So I was frustrated by the found object aspect of it and wanted to get into things more like this, that were more, like readily identifiable, things that were more refined, like my stainless steel Porsche over there. Things that were, just beautiful pieces, and you could see the fabrication aspect. When you're welding on your own, at least for me, I was doing a lot of mild iron, which will rust. So I wanted to get into stainless. So then I think a couple of years after living there, I started trying to 3D render. I already had a good technology design background, so designing 2D, I was very good at that.
What programs would you use to do that?
Yeah, so I was trying out different ones. The main one was Cinema 4D, and I would get stuck. I'd be working on it, and then get stuck, and it'd be, unfortunately, in those types of programs, it was like, next thing you know, you're stuck for like 3 days, or a week trying to figure stuff out.
Okay.
So a good friend of mine who does that for a living, motion design and 3D, just said, hey, I'll teach you on Skype. So he taught me on Skype.
Nice.
It was incredible, yeah. This guy, Justin, yeah.
Sweet.
Justin Puda.
So are a lot of these sculptures your own 3D computer sculpting? Or have you branched out and just be like, oh, it'd be quicker just to like draw it and explain it and have somebody else who that's their job and do it a lot quicker? Because these days, a lot of these resources are so available.
Exactly, yeah. So my stainless steel ones, I was doing mostly on actually all those designs were my own. And then as I started getting into the characters, I just found different guys that could help me render them. Yeah.
Oh, hi there. How you doing? We interrupt this beautiful, super awesome podcast for me to invite you to imagine this. You and me in the beautiful tropical islands of Hawaii painting together. That is true. It sounds impossible, but this May 21 to 26, I will be in the island of Kauai offering a 4-day art retreat. And my best friend, Judea, who's offering up her spot up Nishakra. She's an awesome psychic healer. We will be painting, I will be teaching. I encourage you to check out the webpage on nishakra.com. And yeah, I hope you can make it, because why not? Let's paint in nature, right? All right, blessings. Now, the more modern stuff that you're showing, I haven't seen the found object stuff, and I'd love to see pictures later, but this is connected to pop culture. I see pieces of Mickey Mouse in here, and there's some like, hip hop and urban and graffiti, and I can see a little bit of like perhaps I don't know if you were influenced by Cause or Ron English, or like how do you take that direction of stylistically?
Yeah, 100%. So there is a huge realm of artists that I love and have influenced me. So yeah, definitely Cause, Ron English, Daniel Arsham. Let's see who else. I mean, street art for sure. I like the whole idea of like streetwear and fashion. I've dabbled in that a little bit. So like for instance, Medusa just has clothes on that could be streetwear, and she just has that sort of like cool pose. And I just try to mix in a hybrid of things that I love. And then also get like color in there, colors that I love, things that really pop. And so I just noticed that, say, going from something that's purely abstract into the pop art realm, the great thing about it is the reaction you get from people. And then right away, just the reactions, the experiences that it taps into for them. And then like even things that for me that they tapped into when I was making them, yeah.
Do people enjoy them more when they can see something it's like, oh, that kind of looks like Elmo if Elmo was cool? Like, does that like, is that your hook that will grab the normal people or
yeah,
something?
like 100%. Like I love taking characters that we all know and love, and then either mixing them together with other ideas that I might have, like the Hello Kitty character, making her a monster.
Yeah.
You know? And Elmo, yeah, putting him, like making him more of like a hipster.
Yeah.
For sure, yeah, I love doing that. So putting them in a new context puts them in a different light. It makes people think about them differently.
Right.
Yeah.
And you also got your own characters. Personally, I got my own characters. I for sure it inspire and influence on all the culture that I love.
Yeah.
But then I try to make a character that people are just in like, all right, that looks cool, but I don't know what it is. And in my confusion, maybe I'll keep on walking along because I don't know how to interact with it. I don't know if it's good or bad.
True.
And
True.
like I'm lacking that hook sometimes, but I try to get far away enough from my influences that you can't really catch that I'm being influenced, you know?
Yes.
Like it's not obvious. But that's my personal preference.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, I think I definitely run the gamut with that, from taking characters that are obviously like super well recognized to ones that are definitely just much more my own, to, you know, to see what people are going to react to, but also just to keep it's that process of discovering.
But you're also creating your own brand. At one point, you've created enough momentum that's like, okay, and now this is what, Mr. Winky? Or what do you call this guy here?
Oh, yeah, this is Winky, yeah.
Okay, nice.
Winky.
So that seems separate. Like the closest thing I could like see an echo of it would be a Fisher-Price little...
That's hilarious.
You know,
I never
character.
thought of that. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, you'd have the barn and they had no legs. You could put your finger in it. Remember? It's like
right.
But just because of the big black eyes.
Yes. Yeah.
And they made the smile. But other than that, it's like it's your own thing. But you're already creating your own lore. So, who is Mr. Winky? Who are these characters? What is their world? You got a story behind them, or they're just beautiful?
So that's a good question. So. Yeah, what's interesting is like if you look at Winky, she actually went into a Hiley house in Miami before I moved there. It was Winky and Willie, and so when I named them, it was funny to come up with something that they felt like they were paired together somehow, you know. I have a friend that I'm working with who is, I think I've noticed, and it's interesting you bring this up, that with all the different characters, I have so many characters. My partners will be like, you know what, could we just focus on one and do like maybe pick a group of 3 or 4 and then do them over and over again.
Right, repetition.
So I understand like the whole idea of doing a campaign that way. But for me, I just always like making new characters, and I do kind of stick to families.
Yeah.
And then there is that whole idea of world making. So I have another person I just started working with, Allie, who's been a great help to me. And she is good at helping me refocus and focus in on things like making a world for the characters. And I have put presentations together where I will literally do backstories for my different characters. So I have like Cloudwalkers, I have Ghost Mouse, I have Woofy and his cousins, and Wolf, and then all of them have different backstories. And I do try to do, and also I'm also try to stay very positive with all of them.
Yeah.
So they're usually characters that are here to help us.
Yeah.
They could be from other planets, other worlds. I try to make things that when the people look at them, they laugh. Or they gives them a sense of happiness, like joy. And so I think I do try to encapsulate that into my pieces, and with the world making and the lore and those type of things. I like building those stories behind them. It's because it adds more layers, it adds more ways for people to connect into.
Yeah. No, it sounds a lot like what I'm doing with the Galactic Gang characters, which is one of the branches of my tree.
Yeah.
And they're just like interdimensional characters that come here from a different dimension of frequency that are here to guide humans through their difficult process of ascension. So
100%.
So it seems like it's like different, a kind of like similar idea, but yours is a different dimension and planet. It would be funny to like put them together in a crossover.
I like that idea.
Yeah,
totally. I like
totally.
that a lot, actually. Yeah.
Did you ever make NFTs from your characters? Seems like it would be very fitting.
Yeah, no, I was doing the characters more after the NFTs. NFTs, I did experiment and do. Actually, first when AI was coming out. And I did those. I had friends that did very well that were like on the first couple of waves of that. And I did okay with it, but honestly, there's a lot. I didn't love it. I didn't like making them very much. The technology aspect, some of the things that would happen with transaction, and there were, in the community, it was very much like the Wild West, but say, for instance, you lose money on a transaction. There's literally no way to get it back. Or like, for instance, I ended up making a bunch of NFTs on Super Rare, and then ended up getting hacked by some group that just stole, like, I don't know, maybe 50 NFTs that I had made.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That sucks.
But when that happened, it was okay, though, because when it happened, I was like, you know what? I haven't been loving it. The process feels like you do so much work and not necessarily a lot of money, unless you're one of the big artists like Beeple or somebody like that. And then I was fine with that. And then I just was like, you know what? I'm going back into I was already still continuing to make physical work, but I'm like going back into that wholehearted now.
Yeah. But you already had your thing going. Like, I feel like NFTs were good for people who are already doing that kind of algorithmic art, or artists that perhaps just needed one more chance to make money from their art, since it's difficult to like make a living from art sometimes.
But it is.
But if you already had your thing going, it's like, well, I don't need to like milk that side too hard.
Yeah, I think if other people, well, the ones that did really well were the ones with like really established brands, or they came up with ones that really just fit that sort of that feeling or that groove. With their work,
Yeah.
Certain animated characters. Who was it that does it? The gummy bears, begins with a W. Anyways, I'm spacing it right now.
There's so many collections I can't keep
so
up.
many different collections.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. The Bored Apes and all that.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's go back to sculptures. When did you start offering vinyl toys of your sculptures? Like, vinyl toys is like a newer kind of offering in the art world that's gaining more cachet or cool points. Like, now every famous person's got their cause, plastic vinyl things in their living room to show like, I got money for art, but I'm also cool, like.
Oh, for sure, yeah. There's definitely like a status aspect to some of that. I started making them last year, and it's something I always wanted to get into, and it's a lot to figure out because you have to find the right teams to work with. There's a whole upfront process involved where you do like your 3D printed prototype, then you have to cover machining costs, and then you get your vinyl prototype, things like that. So there's a fair amount of upfront costs. So we were doing pre-sale versions of them, and it's been fun. Yeah, I've been liking it.
So you've invested entirely yourself and then putting out yourself. You're not working with a brand, but maybe you got brokers and people who sell your art.
Well, no, actually, no. It's funny. I've been selling them on my online store, Anchorball.shop, and we did different merch. And so one of the guys that I ended up partnering with, Joey Nagoy, who's incredible, he and I worked at this, we did a whole activation in Hong Kong for a shopping mall called Airside. That's where we met. It was last year. And went for 3 months. We did giant inflatables. We did fiberglass sculptures. Had video games. Had all sorts of games, things kids loved.
You made video games?
Well, yeah, we worked with a team that helped us make little video games for
with
kids.
your characters?
Yeah.
That's so fun.
Yeah, it was super fun. Then there was a bunch of merch in there, so little plushies, T-shirts. I was the first time I made 2.
And this is in Hong Kong?
It was in Hong Kong, yeah.
Wow, so that's like the fucking grand mecca of toys and
yeah, it was so cool to be making work in that place. We even customized one of my characters. We ended up customizing the whole exterior to the patterns to make reference to the original airstrip that was there. They call it the Airside because there was an airport and it was right near the harbor. So made some various abstract details of planes and different like flying creatures to reference that. But yeah.
So cool. So you're just putting the toys out yourself. How many vinyl toys have you put around in the last year or two since you've started?
Yeah, so not a ton. So basically I did one character called Bunny Bee was my first one. And that one did well. We did an edition of 100. And then Pedal Power is next. And I think this has been the most popular one, Pedal Power.
It's dope.
Yeah, people love Pedal Power. And my sister got one, and she literally did a campaign going all around like Buffalo, New York, giving it to her friends to hold and family members, things like that.
It's big and shiny.
It's big and shiny, and for a vinyl toy, it's larger than most.
Yeah, it's different.
It's very hefty. It's got a good weight to it, so it really feels like a small sculpture.
Yeah.
And I think we were selling them for like $400 at the time. So for me, it's a great value because you're getting like a miniature sculpture. It comes in a beautiful box, and yeah, it's a great piece. So we're going to be doing much more with Pedal Power coming up.
Sounds like a, you know, as an artist who've done that, I put one toy once and it was very expensive and I sold enough to like, you know, pay for everything and then like, yay, I did a toy. Okay, I'm good now. With you, you're going all out. Like, is it scary to like throw a bunch of stuff into something and hope that it will bring back the stuff, or you're confident that you know you can just move it all?
No, I mean, that's a great question, yeah. So, and I also did do a collab with Ty Dalla where we've done a Ghost Mouse character. But honestly, yeah, with that, it's a big investment. So you do the pre-sale, and I'm finding each thing you do is like a learning experience. So one thing I found with making the toys is there's a whole world of toy makers, toy conventions, people that are just completely into toys. Thailand, for instance, is a huge country. People love toys.
Thailand,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so they'll do toy shows there.
Okay, so you go all the way to Thailand to get a booth and be like, here's my toy.
Well, I haven't done that yet. So I realized to get the level of exposure I want to do for the toys, I think I need to probably participate more in those activities, maybe be in some of those shows, things like that. So we'll be looking into doing some of that. And yeah, Thailand is interesting. I did not know this till like, I don't know, maybe 6 or 8 months ago. A friend told me people in Thailand will literally spend a week's paycheck to get a toy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Trippy, because when you think of Thailand, you think of third world country that's probably developing. Of course, Bangkok is a fully developed city now.
Yeah.
But in general, when I think of Thailand, I think of like, you know, fishermen and boats and beaches and mangoes. I'm not thinking of people spending like $500 on a toy.
No, exactly. Yeah. So they just have a passion for collecting. And there's really cool pieces that come out of there. There's pieces that feel like I've seen that are very, and I see it coming out of China now too, that just have a much rawer feel to them. Less refined. Like this is pretty defined and refined feeling. I mean, I think if you look at this guy behind you right now, he is a little more raw, but he could get even rawer in terms of like being asymmetrical. Pieces might look not so polished or shiny, things like that. But there's just some really cool toys, and maybe some translucency in various parts.
But isn't that preferable? Something that looks handmade and something that looks like made from a computer that just got 3D printed and painted by machines. Don't you want something that looks like a human, kind of like?
Yeah.
Are all these hand painted, by the way?
Let's see. So all the larger ones are hand painted, and the bronze ones have patina on them. This Winky is hand painted. And pedal power, when you're making a vinyl toy, they actually use decals, kind of like stickers.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so it's a very involved process, and that way each piece is completely, very
Perfectly
similar.
the same.
Yeah.
But that's crazy. Like when they did my toys, they were sending me pictures of people hand painting this very detailed thing. It's like, what, 100 times? Like,
right.
That's intense.
Yeah, it is intense. Where did you make yours, or?
Somewhere in China. It's the only place that they make that kind of stuff, as far as I know, at least.
Well, they make them in different places in Mexico, actually.
Oh, really? Mexico does vinyl toys too?
Yeah, I've been working with a musician, and he had a bunch made in Mexico. And then I just been talking to a group in Colombia. I'll be going down to Colombia, actually, for a show that they do in the fall. I got invited to be in this program called, they call me the Maestro of Maestros, which I think is a very funny thing. But we'll be doing like a series of sculptures and toys. And I think the plan is most of them we're actually going to make in Colombia.
Nice.
Yeah.
Are you going to make like big ass sculptures out there that will be part of like
I think it'll be a mix.
hotels?
I think there's going to be a few key large ones, and then there will be the medium-sized ones like you see here, maybe 60, 70 centimeters, and then we'll do some toy ones too, yeah.
Wow. This is all fascinating to me because like I love toys. I'm a toy collector.
Yeah, you are. I love your collection.
Thank you. I'm a fan of the culture. I like making
huge,
characters.
yeah.
But I feel like I'm a kid looking outside the window of the world of toys and toy makers and designers, and I got no clue how somebody would make a giant metal sculpture and then like making it, like perhaps I can throw a bunch of money at it and then make it, but then like how do I sell it? That whole thing is like my followers, and I love you all, are usually just like trippy psychedelic kids like me that probably are not gonna spend thousands of dollars on art. I don't want to, also not curse myself and jinx it. Like, you're welcome to do that if you want. But it's just like it's a world I haven't really cracked yet. Is it difficult to find buyers, or are you just connected to that whole scene?
No, I think it is. I think it's a mix. So yeah, I mean, it's really hard to say. I do think my first idea with toys was I would make something that appeals to me. And because I have I have like, almost 600,000 followers on Instagram, that I would just sell out, really quick. And you don't necessarily sell out really quick. I mean, personally, that wasn't my experience. So, and I think that's because I make such a wide variety of things. People don't necessarily know he's a toy guy. I'm just going to collect this, I'm always going to be collecting toys from him. They'll be like, he's this artist, he's doing all these characters, some of which look like real pieces, maybe some don't look like, I don't know if he's made them, I can't tell if they're digital. And then they'll see the toy come out. And so, yeah, I think you have a specific audience for that,
There's something about being an artist like you and me where we do something that works, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
But do you want to do that till death? Or you want to do something new that maybe doesn't work, but we're just trying to find something new. The smart thing's like, well, that one works, so let's just do it till death and always succeed. Or let's risk and do something that perhaps might not.
No, totally 100%. Like for me, I have ADHD, so I feel like I'm always in search of novelty. And that's definitely part of my thing. So I like novel new things. I don't want to do the same. The whole reason I did art was to not do the same thing over and over again. I mean, doing an office job, it's terrible. It's brutal after a while. I mean, I did design, freelance design for years. And sure, that's fun and it's a creative way to make a living. But then you got the deadlines, the budgets, and this and that. Now, sure, I have that in sculpture too. But there's just way more leeway to be able to enjoy your creativity. So why suddenly I see that with a lot of artists that have made it big, where they will just do those same characters over and over again, same colorways, very little variety, and it's oh my gosh, it just seems so boring after a while, you know?
It makes me feel bad for them.
I would feel bad for if I was doing that, I would feel dead inside, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah, and success is cool and all, money's all right, but like
Yeah.
if you're truly an artist, like you can't help but being like, you know what? Now I want to grab this thing that I did and tear it into little pieces and turn it upside down and see what
Yeah.
happens. And if I can pull it off and still come up with something successful, fuck yeah. Like
yeah,
that's
100%. 100%.
more exciting than like, well, let's give people, it's the same with musicians, they create this great song that everybody loves, and then when they're at the concert, it's like, oh, we don't want to play that song anymore. It's played out. It's overkill. We want to give you our new songs, may you like them or not, because that's where we're at.
Yeah.
But that can kind of maybe alienate your fan base, and we got to be careful with that too.
True. Yeah, I think it's kind of like you need the commercial success. Obviously, we want to make a living being artists. Mm-hmm. And so it is sort of that line of, it's good to have pieces people recognize. That's why I kind of like having series of pieces and the different characters and things like that. And then what I like to do is I'll just circle back into those series. I'll be exploring new things, but then I drop back in to say Pedal Power or Ghost Mouse characters, things like that, and then keep breathing new life into them, try them in different ways, try them in different groupings, because then you're still making things that are recognizable for your audience, but then you're still experimenting, so yeah.
Right. Ideally, your style just comes through whatever you make, even if it's new things, just to be like, oh, that still looks like Anchorball,
Yeah, God willing, yes. You never know, but hopefully it does.
Yeah, right? Well, we can only hope.
I mean, I do that. I mean, I do have people that are like, no, just get those, this one group and just do that over and over. And I'm like, I just can't do that. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you go about the giant sculptures? That looks more like say, if a toy looks ambitious to me, where I'm like, wow, that's a big investment, and let's hope that they sell.
Yeah.
When I see, for example, a giant sculpture made out of metal in the middle of Wynwood, like obviously I can deduce that the hotel paid for that sculpture, and but how does that come about? Or does a hotel come to you and be like, hey, we like this character, can you make us a big one? Or do you got like a catalog, or is that somebody shopping them for you? How does this happen?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So literally what happened was, after I learned the 3D rendering, well, there's a few things. One, there's a group called UAP, Urban Art Projects, and they're two brothers out of Australia. And I happened upon their website around the same time I was learning rendering, and you could really tell a lot of what they would sell to be made as, outdoor artworks or public art pieces or pieces they do for museums were ones that they would render first. Mm-hmm. And so then it occurred to me, why not?
By render, what you mean?
By rendering in 3D like an architect does for a building, right?
Okay.
So
this is images on a computer?
Yeah, exactly.
Or not freely printed?
Yeah, nope, just on a computer, and then you post them to Instagram. So my process became, I was like, well, if architects can sell a building or a style of building architecture based on these renderings they're doing, then that's what I want to do. So literally what I was doing was I'd make myself design them in 3D so they could be made. Mm-hmm. Then I was making beautiful renderings of them and then posting them to Instagram. And one, I have an addictive personality, so I was immediately hooked to designing and rendering sculptures every day. So I was literally doing new ones every day. I was also doing things where I would take things like a known plaza, say in Europe, and I would make this piece so insanely huge, couldn't really exist in the real world necessarily, maybe it could, and then drop it in the plaza. So I was taking what was familiar with people and then putting the unfamiliar in there.
Yeah.
And I love playing with scale. I don't know.
It was screwing with people's perception of reality.
Yeah, definitely. I always love making big things. I don't know why, but I always just had this thing where I'll make giant pieces. So.
Well, we grew up with King Kong and, Godzilla.
I love Godzilla. Yeah. I love Godzilla. It's true. I still remember watching Godzilla.
And giant robots, Mazinger Z.
Oh my gosh, you're 100% right. Yeah. You know what? Because, even in the last year, I delved back into some Godzilla themes. But I feel like, my God, what's funny that you're tapping into that is because there is these core experiences. I remember when I was younger of being at my grandparents' house. We had this basement that we'd go into, me and my cousins and my brother. And we go downstairs. And it was like dark down there. You go down Saturday morning, and we had the best freaking cartoons. The best cartoons when we were kids.
Yeah.
And
this is what, 70s, 80s?
Oh, let's see. This was probably like, 70s and 80s, yeah.
Yeah.
So we had the best cartoons. I'm trying to remember some of them, but I mean, there were just I can't even remember right now. Like, just so many good ones. Jetsons, Scooby-Doo.
Hanna-Barbera.
Bugs Bunny constantly.
Yeah, Looney Tunes.
All the Bugs Bunny stuff, Looney Tunes. And then it would transition then into Monsters and Addams Family by around noon. We were down there for, some days we'd be down there all day. Then it'd be the Monsters and the Addams Family, which I freaking loved, and I just wanted that to be real life.
Yeah.
So I think part of being that artist like this, and I think you probably do the same, where you get these visions in your head of this is life, this is the fun world. The monsters are real, the Addams Family are real. Bugs Bunny is awesome, he's real.
Giant robots.
All this stuff, and you want to just put it in the world. And then we would get the monster movies in the afternoon. It would be Godzilla, breathing fire, the buildings exploding, and then the freaking Rodan, the flying turtle, and then the battling with the lasers, Rodan shooting Godzilla with the lasers, and Godzilla fighting back with the fire. I mean, that's freaking amazing as kids to see all that stuff, you know?
Right.
And I think that was like an incubation thing, because that's the kind of stuff that's been in me forever.
Right. Well, I'm so happy that you kept it alive, because a lot of adults crush their kids inside, and it's like, oh, that was
the inner child thing. Yeah, that's so
like,
funny. Yeah, I think, I mean, definitely as teens, I probably was crushing that in a lot of ways. You know, I did like lots of different things, drugs, alcohol, listened to a ton of Pink Floyd. But I think even then my influences were things that were always like feeding my imagination. So, and I never wanted to let the inner child stuff go, because I think you realize that in life. It's like, here's childhood, your inner child stuff, which is playful and fun. And then you look at the adults and like, definitely don't want to do that.
No.
Like what most of them are doing, you know? Unless you're looking at like the freaking, I don't know, Mick Jagger and the Rolling Stones.
But even they just stayed in teenager mode forever. That's not really truly adult.
That's true. That's true. You got to find ones that evolve, I guess. But yeah.
And now you live in a house that looks like it's like a kid that grew up.
You're right.
As a kid.
Yeah, you're right. No, it's really interesting. It's funny. I know, and it's rare that I actually sit back and like think about that and then make all the different connections, but yeah.
I love giant robots, like just battling in the middle of a city.
Yeah,
and
for sure,
you know, that Japanese influence for when I was a kid.
I love that stuff.
And it's interesting that, so you're creating your well-rendered characters and you're throwing them in the city, and you're like, whoa, am I supposed to be scared of this happy-looking thing? Like, is this real? So I want to ask you your social media. You got, over 500,000 followers. So obviously there's a lot of resonance in the people. And you're looking at your posts, and half of the time I'm like, is this real? Is this AI? Is this an animation? Is that a real toy? Is that a sculpture? Like, I'm kind of confused. And I'm not sure if you're doing this on purpose.
Yeah, 100%, yeah.
Tell me about it.
Oh, yeah. So I've been doing that on purpose. I mean, it's hilarious. Well, ever since I was doing the renderings, they're the more abstract sculptures, but like in the plazas and things like that, I wanted to get so good at rendering that it became really impossible to tell. Is that real? Is it not real? I can't tell. And then I would get people saying, where can I see, what plaza is that? Where can I see this thing? Things like that. And so, you know what? I'm like, why not just do that? Because I can now design a catalog of hundreds of pieces. Every day I was making new ones, and I'll just keep going and going and going. And then once
can you do it that quick?
Oh, well, the 3D renderings, I mean, I was doing at least one a day, sometimes a couple a day of designing pieces. And
like something as detailed as this?
No, these take longer.
Yeah.
So once I got into more of these human pop art type characters, it'll take a few days to design. But then in terms of like using AI, I mean, AI came along at a great time. I mean, who would have thought we'd have something like this, in our lives?
It's good and scary at the same time.
Hi,
we take this little pause from our conversations for me to let you know that I got a brand new art book. This is my second art book, Shamanic Journey, that just came out with Last Gasp Publications. It's a 256-page book, full color, shiny, beautiful pages with full of my art, writing, stories, basically everything I've done in the last 13 years. And I worked really hard on this book. It took me months to lay out by myself, and obviously the art has been a labor of love of many years, and I've condensed it all in this beautiful book that now is available on positcreations.net. You can get a signed version, you can get an unsigned version for a little bit cheaper. And yeah, this won't run out of electricity. On this digital world where we gotta charge everything, or a solar flare could knock out the electricity of the world and you'd be like, whoa, where did all my Chris Dyer go? No, this runs on energy forever. You never gotta charge it, you never gotta water it. It'll always be there to give you new inspiration and art. And I've done this with a lot of love, you know, and I hope that you will get a copy for your own personal library. And reflect yourself in it and make your own book and story of your life. But here's mine, and I hope you will enjoy it. positcreations.net. Thank you.
It's good and scary. And I mean, for me, honestly, it's just been more good because I tend to be an early adapter, for one, in anything.
Yeah.
And it's just how I'm wired, because I like novel things,
Yeah.
you know? And so I did, right as soon as Midjourney came out, I was in Midjourney making stuff for NFTs.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, they were not, you know, early AI. And still to this day, you get the extra fingers and all the weird stuff in there, artifacts, visual things like that. But it gets, and as people know, it keeps getting better and better. And now we're able to do the animations. And so
ChatGPT 4 came out very recently, something like that, with some really great AI art that kind of seems like it took it to the next level. Am I correct?
Yeah, and it's just it keeps, every few months, all the AI apps are just getting better and better and better. Yeah, and they'll just keep getting better and better. Yeah.
So you just got into it and you fed your characters and they make it move and take it to the next level of life?
Well, so basically, I would use it to help create my own characters. I would use it to animate them. Lately, I've been using different apps to do great little movies.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I would design them with AI, then model them in 3D. So then I really could own them. They really become my own at that point. And then also like sort of decide things that I want to keep, edit things out, things like that.
So it helped you with the brainstorming, sketching stage of the creation.
Definitely, 100%. And not only sketching it, but say, for instance, if I need to do a proposal for a city, or for a piece or whatever, I could now come up with like 100 ideas, very short amount of time.
Wow.
Instead of spending, you know, like weeks putting together a presentation, I could now do it maybe in a day or a couple of days. And those types of presentations, you don't want them to eat up a ton of time because
they might just say no to everything.
You know, I mean, 1 in 100 will get picked. You know, so things like that. But yeah, so for me, very much, I embraced AI in the beginning, and it became another step ahead of me doing my 3D modeling and 3D design. And it's just one step in front, and it helps me move quicker, explore way more ideas. And then I can constantly, like, Instagram is kind of my laboratory, so I constantly put new things out, and I see what people like and react to.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes it flops or it doesn't hit?
Yeah, it could be, it doesn't get a ton of likes. I'll just get a sense of what people really resonate with, or what resonates with people. And those are sort of like, it'll put me down a certain path, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like there was one post I saw that you had these good-looking ladies with these jackets that were made out of teddy bears. That were very, very crazy. And I'm like, wow, that looks real, but it also looks like it could have been done in AI. And in this age, I'm confused what's real and what's AI. And once again, you coming in with your post, you're kind of like confusing us extra. So what's up?
Yeah, 100%. So, well, it's just something I like to play with. Also, they end up being those initial ideas of things that you could make.
Uh-huh.
So I did when I was first getting, and it was actually a really conscious decision. So I think it was maybe 6 months or maybe 3/4 of a year into Midjourney being around. Winter had come, and I was on the verge of like, should I just post only things I make in 3D modeling, or should I now start introducing things I'm doing in AI? Because I love all these ideas that I'm having, you know?
But I don't know if I want to invest all this time and money into doing it in real life.
Well, it's interesting. So I was like, well, what's going to happen if I do that? And do I want to do it, you know? And so I'm like, hell yeah, I think I do want to do that. And what I ended up doing was kind of interesting was putting pieces out there, because that was the other thing. I was getting my sculpture commissions, or I get my sculpture commissions through Instagram often, and you never know where it's going to come from. And so I realized if I start putting these AI things out, like giant knit sculptures, like I was putting out giant, you know, crocheted octopus and giant crochet sculptures, things like that, what will happen? Somebody's going to eventually say, I want to buy that.
Yeah.
You know, I was doing crochet Darth Vaders, you know. People love those things. They went so damn viral. One of them got like over, you know, 200,000 likes at one point.
Crazy.
I did a crochet Porsche, a knit covered Porsche. People went nuts.
But you did it in AI to show like the proof of concept.
Yeah, I was doing AI. I was doing like a lot of knit pieces before people were doing them, or I guess crochet is the right term.
Yeah.
But even when I did the crochet Porsche, 200,000 likes. People were going nuts. It was viral. Then Porsche actually called me up, this agency, The Art of Dreams, that lines up all their Porsche collabs and events. They were going to have me do a crochet Porsche for Design Milan.
Wow.
Design Week, yeah. And what was interesting is when they reposted it, the Porsche community, there's a lot of like manly guys, like nothing wrong with being, you know, the manly dude or whatever, but honestly, there was like people like were bashing it, calling it like grandma's Porsche, and a lot of like gay bashing, honestly, and boy, it was some extreme reactions. I was surprised.
Wow.
And I think
once you're reaching such a big demographic, you'll get your 1% of this, your 1% of that.
I was just a little surprised. I think Porsche was too, and so they tabled doing that piece at that point. You know, like maybe we don't want to do that or whatever. So
you can't make everybody happy, especially with art.
Oh yeah, you can't. So that was interesting. But then I did end up making some knit sculptures for Kelleher. But what was happening was, because I approached it that way, I got put in a situation where all of a sudden I'm not just making metal sculpture. People are saying, can you do a knit sculpture? I did entirely knit. I did a crochet octopus at one point for a collector in San Francisco. I had an inquiry on what would have been a massive 3-meter tall, like probably 4-meter wide crochet octopus for a woman in Libya was interested at one point. So I had to figure out how to make them. You know, yeah. So even my carpets, I had to find teams that would help me make them. So I found teams that specialized in making wool carpets in India. I started making furniture. People were asking me for furniture. I did commissions with an interior design group for a whole tequila Mexican restaurant in Las Vegas. And I made, you know, I think it was like a year ago, everyone wanted Instagrammable moment pieces. Maybe it was 2 years ago. So I had a crazy skull couch that I had come up in AI, and I needed to make it. So I found a team in India that would help me make it.
Wow.
And then at that same project, I made mariachi players, you know, things like that. Mark Wahlberg ended up being a part owner of that.
Marky Mark?
Yeah, the tequila brand that was in that restaurant. So he actually came in.
From New Kids on the Block?
Exactly, yeah. He was sitting in the skull couch. So it was fun.
That's so cool.
And it made me do a lot of things that I normally might not have tried.
That's
and I
great.
loved it. Yeah, I loved it.
So you're doing these crazy...
clothing was a part of it, actually. For a while, I was doing fashion. I was doing like, oh my gosh, I did a super, actually you would like it, a super psychedelic hoodie, knit, embroidered, all these the full spectrum of colors. And that piece again, viral, 200,000 likes, everyone going nuts, reshared over and over. I had so many inquiries. I want that hoodie. Can I get that hoodie? I had football players, basketball players. I had like famous musicians. I want that hoodie.
Yeah.
How much is it? You know, I had people that were offering me like 20 grand to get the hoodie. And I'm like, I don't even know if I can make this hoodie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I had to I started looking around at all these people.
Could I have another Orangina drink?
100%.
Thanks.
So
wow, that's crazy.
So it was wild.
Did you end up making any of it?
That piece I didn't. I haven't made yet. Not saying that I couldn't at some point.
Just got to pick your battles.
But you do need to pick your battles. I had people that saw a rainbow dress. I was doing a lot. It's wild. You introduce color and things, and I was putting rainbow, this full spectrum of colors and everything. And so I was doing these rainbow dresses, big knits, beautiful dresses with long trains behind them. And I was having fashion people suddenly contact me. Where can I get the dress? I need it for the Met Gala. I had somebody inquiries for the Met Gala.
Because they do really funky, weird stuff in that one.
Crazy, right? So I had a rap artist woman asking me to help collaborate with her for pieces that she could wear to different events. So that's there, and I might still go explore that some more. And I did get connected with people that could make pieces like this. But then it's a different world. So I started to feel like I spread myself too thin. And I was also working with people that there's a lot of different vendors involved. And so you don't know, you start to find out like, this is easy to pull off. This isn't easy. This has more risk. Furniture is much riskier. People are on it all the time. You want to make sure it's high quality. You know, unless you have a member of your team there with these teams that are helping you, or you just make your own team in different locations, I think there's just a risk, you know, that it might not turn out the way you want, or it could end up being an issue with it, that type of thing. So
super interesting. It seems like, I don't want to say more than being an artist, because you are an artist no matter what, but you're like an idea generator, like an art director.
Exactly.
That just like produces all these original things with good taste that are attracting people.
You're right. That's kind of funny. Yeah, because I did like 20, 30 years in design business industry with branding and all that. And I have been an art director and creative director. You're right. I do bring that to my work. And exactly. This one thing I've said a lot, and one thing I've had in my heart and my spirit, like this unlimited possibility idea. It's like it's a tagline I've had for a long time, unlimited possibilities. And that is, initially, you know, doing sculpture, probably in the back of my mind, it'd be like, oh, you're this type of artist. You're just a sculptor. And then I'm like, no, I'm not going to limit myself to that. You're a painter. You're a fashion designer. I'm like, I'm going to do whatever I want. You know, and I'm going to try and push the envelope. You know, and I think, and with AI, it lets you do that, experiment with things like that in all the categories. And then you can take one idea like color, or like I was doing crochet, crazy crochet Batman sweaters. And then next thing I'm doing crazy crochet Batman couches. And
wow.
Yeah, crazy stuff like that, which can be made.
One of a kind.
Yeah, they can be made one of a kind. And then, but it's great. You can be in all the categories. You don't have to be like, I'm just going to do this.
No, for sure. Fuck the boxes. Let's be an explosion of expression and see where it lands.
Fuck the boxes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right. And some things will stick or not. Like, but it seems like, in your case, if you do something following your bliss, following your idea, I want to crochet Batman couch and it's going to be amazing. And then you put it out there and you'll be like, I'll buy it. you know, like,
Yes.
and that's what art should be in general. It seems like people are like, oh, I'm gonna do my boxes, and people like this kind of expression, and I'll give them what they want.
Yeah.
But then, like, when you give them what they want, it's probably the same thing that many others are doing. You're not doing this unique thing that you're the only flower to blossom and be like, Batman crochet couches.
Right. Yeah,
And then,
exactly. Yeah.
how do you protect that? Do you copyright it, or is it just posting it on Instagram like the first, like I did it first, or is Instagram even gonna steal your idea and do it themselves?
Well, virtually as soon as you publish something, then it's copyrighted, honestly. So by publishing it, it's yours.
What do you mean by
To a certain
publishing it? A
extent.
post?
Well, posting it, it's basically, it's time stamped. You can say, I did that. That's my idea.
Great.
It doesn't necessarily prevent people from copying you. I definitely have had various pieces get copied, even more formal pieces, you know, that I've, you know, designed in 3D and whatnot, different like metal sculptures, things like that. I've seen. I literally had a 10-meter sculpture get copied by one company in China for a project in Mongolia. And I remember seeing the video. I can't remember. I think somebody sent me the video. And they spent so much. It was a gorgeous project. Beautiful. Fountains, very modern, very minimalistic. And then they're panning across, and all of a sudden I see my giant velocity sculpture. It's a wing. I mean, that thing's been copied many times. Giant wing, 10 meters tall. I'm like, what? And what got me the most was I hadn't even had a chance to make myself like a 3 or 4 meter version one yet for myself.
They took my idea into the next level, which is probably beautiful and flattering.
Well, they made a massive scale. Well, it wasn't flattering. I had to pursue them, and I had to sue them, and we did do a settlement. So, no.
So you made some profit from it.
I did not as much as if I had made it on my own.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So do you work with a lawyer in that case? Like when people bite me, I'm like, oh, artist bit me. What can I do? Like me making a stink looks worse than me just letting them do it. But that's a big organization. That's next level. That almost seems like David fighting Goliath in that case. Like,
yeah, no, it was a huge developer. It's in China, which it's very hard to go after anyone legally in China, especially if you're in America, unless you have a Chinese team there. And so, yeah, it was very difficult to pursue. My fabricator helped me, who I worked with a lot at that time, and they had to translate a lot, but I got them to pay attention. I literally, personally, when things like that happen to me, I will do whatever I need to do to talk to whoever's at the top, wherever they are. So I emailed they had branches in America, all the presidents, everyone's on the email chain, and I just don't stop till I get a response,
Do you have a team that helps you with all of this, or are you like a one-man show and whoever latches onto you to collaborate, you will be open to it? Or do you need a specific team in order to like both create the sculptures and manage and get the gigs and, you know, you're worldwide? Like, once again, it seems very ambitious to me.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I mean, I think everything that you mentioned there has different components and different teams. Or different ways of doing things. So right now I have 2 partners that are helping me quite a bit. My buddy Joey, who's in Hong Kong and LA, and he's opening up a lot of Asian opportunities and projects for me over there, and has been. And he literally is working around the clock. He's also been like a talent agent, so he's connected to a lot of music groups, some K-pop bands, things like that. And then my other friend Allie, who's been helping me, and she's very connected to American brand collaborations, things like this. So we're exploring that. So I really have and it is a lot of this has been just on my own. And I will get other independent people, freelancers to help me things like 3D modeling, things like that. And then I'm working with different specific teams where, you know, if it's a stainless steel sculpture, if it's a fiberglass sculpture, if it's a toy, you know, stuff like that. So sometimes, it feels very much like I'm just solo on my own. But I kind of think of myself probably more like a music conductor too. So just trying to bring in various pieces and parts together at different times, you know, and sort of orchestrate things. And I think that can include, you know, whether it could be a brand collaboration or maybe like another artist like yourself says, hey, let's collab. For me, I'm just like, yeah, let's do it, you know? So, yeah, I think it runs a wide array of, you know.
I find when you gotta work with that many humans, once again, the 5%, the 1%, there's those little bloodsuckers that just kind of like want to take and not give back.
Yeah.
How do you, a nice, kind-hearted person who just wants to create and doesn't mind sharing resources, when somebody comes and takes a big bite out of you, are you ready to show your boundaries, or that doesn't even happen to you?
You know, no, I think you do need to, definitely. Boundaries is a big thing. And it's true. I mean, my mom is probably a great teacher. I think she's like one of my best teachers in my life. Just as she's gotten older, she's done so much with like yoga, spiritual knowledge, different practices that she does. And then she really, you know, conveys that to me. And one of those things, yeah, I mean, even going from like living on a farm to suddenly being in Miami, a big city, where there's a lot more of that going on. And you really need to guard your space, guard yourself, sort of like hold things close to your chest, and then establish boundaries. So yeah, going through some of that, I think helped me be like, okay, I need to put some walls up here. I need to maybe just go be myself for a while, process things, or just be really firm, you know? So yeah, I think it's just one of those lessons you have to learn, you know?
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I'm happy you got people who are helping you get your art to new places. Once again, like me seeing like a funky pop sculpture art in an hotel, I was like, wow, that's great. How do I knock on a hotel and be like, hey, I got some cool art. Don't you want a cool sculpture in your... Like, I'm not that guy. They'll be like, yeah, go back to the streets, hippie. You know, you need that formal, like, I'm the art expert.
Actually, no, I don't think so. No, not necessarily.
Not
at all. Not at all.
Okay.
I think you present super well. You would never have to worry about that. And you're a great artist. So, I mean, honestly, I think, no, the people that are hotels, people like that are developers, the creatives in those teams, they see you, they're creative themselves, and they relate to you like, you're just the same type of persons. You're in the same family, basically. And so then, no, I think very easily I could see your work getting into hotels, honestly, yeah.
Yeah, I guess I just don't know how to talk to that world or pitch it or sell it. It seems from what you're telling me, you just pitch it on Instagram and there's such a high interest that then you get those kinds of people that also come through the door ready to like spend tens of thousands into a giant sculpture.
Well, actually, I think for your work, if you start doing more 3D renderings, visualizations of your work in 3D, which you could definitely do, like for instance, you showed me that one piece with like a flying hovercraft through space. That thing is phenomenal. And there's so many details into it.
Oh, thanks. A space DJ.
It's Space DJ.
Yeah.
Freaking phenomenal. So that thing, I could visualize that 3D.
Oh, yeah, it'd be such a fun toy sculpture.
Yeah. So I think, you know, for something like that, you just, and I know people will get you connected with a 3D modeler, and then they model it.
Yeah.
It's in 3D, then you post it, you know, and then post it in situations where you show it as like a large sculpture outdoors, you know, or in a lobby or whatever. And then you could post it in toy form or smaller forms, like show in a gallery setting, or just make it.
Right.
You know.
I've never thought of, because I got my 3D renderings, but I never thought of like doing what you do, plopping it in middle of Wynwood, and you'd be like, whoa, that'd be sick to have a, you know, 10-foot tribal Chris Dyer shamanic spray can looming right next to a cool gallery.
100%. No, those, and that would be a perfect environment, actually. Because your graffiti background, the colorful environment there, I think your pieces like as sculpture would be incredible there.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for all the tips. What about these rugs? Like, how did the rugs come about? How does that tie into your whole world?
Well, I dropped a lot of LSD. No, I'm just kidding. I got to pee really quick if that's all right.
Yeah, go for it. Hi. We take a little break from our super awesome podcast show so that I, your artist friend Chris Dyer, can tell you about my brand, Positive Creations, which I have been doing for 20 years. And with this project, I share my art through different products, maybe beautiful clothes that you can use in normal life or in the festival world, or skateboards that you can ride, or games like puzzles, or kendamas and flow toys, or use slip mats for your records. Basically a lot of functional things that just add fun and magic into your existence. So I hope you like it. Check out positivecreations.net. positivecreations.net. That was not a glitch. And yeah, I'll talk to you soon. Blessings.
Great.
Yeah, I think it's just like a great resource for artists. They always
Yeah.
come to me like, hey, how do I do this art career goal? It's like, well, that's a long conversation, but you can sit through hours of me picking the brains of all these artists who are doing it one way or another.
It's true. Yeah, I remember that. Like starting out, like how do you do it? You know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a huge thing.
Yeah, no, it's very helpful.
So
So
you're just asking about rugs.
yeah, we're talking
Oh, yeah,
about rugs.
rugs.
How does
Yeah.
the rug tie into it other than it looks like you turned into a rainbow puddle,
Yeah.
cuddle puddle of acid explosion?
Yeah. Yeah, so literally with the rugs, it was during experimenting with Midjourney,
Mm-hmm.
and in a phase when I just really embraced color,
Mm-hmm.
rainbows, and just using the full spectrum of color. And I started coming up with pieces that to me just were like, actually at the same time I was doing furniture, like rainbow furniture.
Mm-hmm.
And people loved them. I posted them, people loved them. And they loved the furniture pieces and they loved the hoodie. So I had this whole little group of very colorful pieces going. And I was like, all right, I need to figure out how to make them. So then I just would research and ended up finding a great team. It's multi-generational in India. They use all wool out of New Zealand. And then, through that process, I even learned like about carpets because, prior to that, I wasn't really thinking about carpets or anything like that. I don't know. I think for a while, though, I was really fascinated with these textile things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why was I making all these crochet sculptures? I don't know what part of me was interested in that. And then the same thing with carpets. Like, it's something, like, these are really nice on your feet,
Yeah, they're thick.
They're cozy.
Mm-hmm.
And they have lanolin in them, which is pretty amazing.
What's that?
It's like an oil that naturally occurs in sheep's wool.
Okay.
And so it's actually good for your skin.
No.
Oh, yeah. So the more you roll around
It
in the carpet,
moisturizes you as you roll
it
in.
really does. It really does. And my dog loves it. Lulu loves these carpets. Like, she's on them all the time.
Nice.
So it's definitely like a cool thing. But yeah, so I found a team that I could work with to help me make them. Did all the patterns in vector, and had to select all the colors using. It's similar to Pantone, but it's for like people that are in working with materials.
Okay. So Materials got their own Pantone
Oh
catalog.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh,
In
wow.
fact, they had a whole. I think his uncle made them because they have specific dyes in India. I had to get like a suitcase of wool with all these little pieces of different colored wool.
Wow. All the samples.
Yeah, all the samples. Yeah, and
Amazing.
so. Anyways, yeah, that's part of how the process.
When you have an art show, you just put the carpets around art pieces, or is this just like for individual clients who see it online?
Yeah, literally, I just sell them online on my website, and then people will buy them. They're multiple sizes, and then the rainbow ones are my first one. So I did like rainbow cloud, rainbow rain, the wave rainbow one, and then there was another one, rainbow drip. And then from there, though, I've been branching off to other kinds, like monster ones, a big cat one, things like that.
Are these 101s, or are they like, say there's like 10 of these or 100 of these, or?
Oh, they're just open edition, honestly, like just like a product. Any type of product,
so if you get an order, you tell your India people like, make me another one and send it here.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, it's just like any type of product, like making
Drop shipping.
merchandise, T-shirts or whatever, yeah.
But just like a higher end
Yeah, exactly.
product.
Yeah,
How
higher
much is a rug like this, if I can ask?
I'd have to look, but around 3,000.
Yeah, well, rugs are
Actually,
expensive in
I think
general.
maybe 2,700, yeah.
Hey, what's up, dude? The never-ending story.
Yes, that's exactly her face. That's who she is. You're right. That's exactly her.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, it was rugs that actually got you out here to St. Pete, because it was through the rugs that Jenna, my rug person,
Yes.
did a homage. You want to tell that story?
Yeah, so basically, it's funny. I was coming down, moving into Miami, and her partner, Nicole, I designed a hat and I wanted to make it like a shamanic hat. It had all these cool patches on it, different colorful things,
Yeah.
plushy, all these different elements. And started talking to her about it. And then, I don't know, a few weeks later, she sent me a post of Jenna, who makes these incredible pop art carpets, where she had done a couple of my designs. And so I was like, oh, wait a minute. Like this, you're copying my work, you know? So I'm like, cease and desist. I sent her a message. And then Nicole said to me, no, wait, you don't understand. She loves you. She loves your work. She's making this more as like gifts for you when you get here. And I'm like, and then she said, and the reason she has them posted on her stories and she's trying to sell them right now is because something was going on with her dog. And it was really sick. And they thought it had cancer. And there was a huge vet bill. So she needed to pay the vet bill. So I was like, whoa, okay. So I completely was like, all right. I deleted my thing of cease and desist. And I was like, hey, Jenna, we just started talking. And I'm like, you know what? Can I commission some pieces from you? I want to commission a carpet from you. And I had some extra funds at that point. I just sold a Sculptor. And then I was like, I want to buy all the little ones you did of my pieces. And I think she might have sold one of those. And then a couple other ones. And so, yeah, that's how we hit it off. That's how we connected.
And now she's like one of your closest friends here.
Exactly, yes. She's closest friends. Her and Nicole came out when I was in Miami, visited me. I'd only been there like a week or so. And we just had a great time. We hit it off. She brought out some of the carpets that I had bought from her. And then we were working on the commissioned one. And literally at a certain point, they're like, you need to come to see St. Pete's. And then I realized I had another friend here, Jason Hackenworth, who I had talked to in a long time. I thought he was in Miami, but it turned out his studio was here. So I was like, I need to go out. So that was my first visit. It got me out probably like a month ago.
Yeah, so it's the rug connection eventually got you here
Total
to
rug
St. Pete.
connection, yeah. Exactly, yeah.
I love it. And I love that through Jenna doing my rug, I got to meet you so easily. And then he's like, oh my God, he's like 5 minutes away from where I live now. I get excited because I moved here knowing anybody.
Wow.
And since I've been here, like really cool artists have started to moving, not because of me, obviously. It's just like we all have the same intuition of like, oh, this is a rad place to live.
It's a rad, beautiful place. Just all sorts of characters, just beautiful people here.
Not blown out of the water or hyped up.
Multi-generational, wide ranges, like it isn't like going to me, at least the area I was in Miami was very limited spectrum of 20 to 30-year-olds. Everyone's going to the gym or just certain types of people. It wasn't like a wide range, at least from my experience. So.
Yeah, no, definitely. St. Pete is way chiller than southern Florida.
And then the nature, hardly any traffic. It's so relaxed, a mile from the beach. You have peacocks walking the streets. Cranes. I had a big osprey fly over my head this morning.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous.
We love it too. Pauline and me are creating our little paradise as you've seen. And I foresee myself to stick around here as long as I'm welcome. Going back to the psychedelic rugs, how experienced are you with plant medicines and psychedelics? Is that being part of your journey throughout your life?
Yeah, it definitely has. Yeah, for sure. I think early on, well, in my teens, I definitely experimented with LSD and mushrooms, trying different things out. I mean, we were always, me and my cousin and friends, I mean, I was somebody that, well, a lot of different things happened, but, we had certain tragedy in my family at one point, and I think some of what me processing that was, well, one, I drank a lot at certain points. And then I probably shifted over to smoking a ton of pot in my high school years. And during different times, I would try the mushrooms and LSD. And I would say, well, with those experiences, especially in nature, it tuned me into, I feel like I already was in my heart, already feeling super connected to things, but it just exposed those connections, you know, to the larger picture of life, of God, of seeing, you know, the divinity in creation, of seeing interconnectedness, of having visionary experiences of, you know, what this, like who we are, what this life is about. I mean, what's interesting is though, before I even was doing psychedelics, there was a part of me, I think, in early age where I was like in a very rebellious phase, and I couldn't accept. I guess I was really puzzled that I felt like everyone around me was just accepting life as this very defined thing, and we all had these various defined roles, and no one was questioning like why we're here. Like, why are we here? What's going on? What is the meaning of life? What, we're breathing creatures. We have oxygen come into these things called lungs. We have physical bodies, these like 5 senses, maybe some other ones.
Like, what's happening? What is this all for?
What is going on? Yeah, and I started questioning things a lot. And then I think also at those times, then I was taking, you know, psychedelics at various points, and they would just sort of like enhance. They would actually give me answers at different points, or like tap into like just this feeling of, yeah, we're in a much bigger place than we thought that we were. And I think like Aldous Huxley with when the doors of perception are cleansed, we'll see things as they truly are, which is infinite. So yeah, various steps along the way, definitely plant medicines have helped me a lot.
Including that time that Ken Kesey gave you some acid and lent you his cabin.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's hilarious. So for a year, I was traveling with friends. Well, started out with one group of friends and transitioned into a group of a couple other guys I traveled with. This guy Clay and Tim, who was from England. And we literally only had $100 between the three of us when we started out. And we met at a youth hostel in Phoenix, Arizona. And Clay and I had gone there. We had met in Taos, New Mexico. And we met at a place called End of the Universe Cafe. And for 3 months prior to that, I had literally been living on the streets in Austin, Texas. I was homeless. And this guy had offered for me to go to New Mexico to stay with him and his parents for the week of Thanksgiving. And I could sleep on his floor until the end of the week, and then I was to decide whether to stay in New Mexico or go back to Austin, you know? So thankfully it got me out of Austin. I was like, I'm never going back, you know, at least in this state of where I'm at. And I'm on a new journey, you know? So at the end of the week, I was on my last day there, and he's like, okay, so you're going to go back to Austin, or are you going to stay here? I'm like, I'm going to stay here, obviously. And I had a backpack. I didn't have a sleeping bag. Wait, did I have no, I didn't even have like a good winter. Wait, I had a sleeping bag, but nothing for it to be outdoors in like 40-degree weather. And it was getting to be winter. And so he left. So I went to this cafe called End of the Universe Cafe. And I'm sitting there. I'm sitting there at this table, and I'm reading Sufi poetry. Just reading the Sufi poetry. And this guy sits down across from me, and I'm just reading it. He's like, so what have you learned? And I look at him like, what do you mean? Like, what are you talking about? What have I learned? What do you mean? And he's like, on your journey. And I was like, whoa. And I'm like, well, I guess I've learned to follow my heart. I'm learning to follow my heart. And he's like, no kidding. And he's like, well, where are you staying tonight? And I'm like, I don't know. Well, it's funny you're asking because I literally have no place to stay. And he's like, well, you can stay with me at my cabin. I'm watching this house for somebody. It's an Adobe, you know, they have all the Adobe houses. It's like, I'm watching this place. You can come stay with me. I'll give you some food to eat. You can crash on the bed. And he's like, you know what? I tell you, by the end of this weekend, you're going to have a place to stay, like your own place, and you'll have a job. I'm like, no way. Like, you're out of your mind. I'm like, because I've been homeless for like 3 months. How's that going to happen, you know? And then sure enough, like by the end of the weekend, I was working in this guy's shop that he would carve like Hopi Indian shapes in steel.
Okay, nice.
And I had a place to stay in this apartment, these two guys, Chuck and Andy. And they had a job. Their job was at a resort doing laundry for this resort. And it was like from here to that far wall, all laundry machines. And at the end of the building, they had a hot tub. So they just smoked pot in there all day, listen to Grateful Dead.
In the hot tub?
No, yeah, and they'd go in the hot tub. But they're doing laundry for the resort all day, and they're two deadheads.
Yeah.
They had the freaking Dead playing all day.
Nice.
Yeah, and smoking, the whole place reeked of weed. And then they go sit in the hot tub. It was so damn funny. So I was a roommate, you know.
That's great.
I was only the roommate for one night, though, because I worked at Saturday, and then Sunday, the guy ended up burning his retina because he dropped his welding helmet and he kept welding anyways. I'm like, what are you doing? And that was on Saturday. Well, Sunday I'm walking to work. I didn't know if he'd be there. And Clay shows up in his little Honda car, Honda Civic or whatever it was, and he pulls up next to me. And he's like, where are you going? And I'm like, well, where do you think I'm going? I'm going to work. I'm like, remember you said I'd have a place to live and a place to work by the end of the weekend. I'm going to work. And he's like, well, it's like, I was thinking of going to Jemez Springs. Would you want to come? I'm like, well, I can't really because I'm going to work, Clay. He's like, yeah, and then I was thinking after Jemez Springs, maybe go down to like Phoenix, we'll sell burritos at a Dead show. And then I was thinking maybe get like a truck, and then we could go like to LA and go up the coast, and then like find homeless people and feed them and stuff like that. I'm like, holy cow, man. I'm like, I'll tell you what, I'm going to go see if the guy's there. If not, I'll go with you. We'll go to Jemez Springs, and then we'll decide, you know, what we want to do. So the guy had burned his eyes, and so he couldn't work. And so we went to Jemez Springs that night. We had an incredible time. And literally, I had an eye twitch from being homeless for like 3 months, and the Springs healed it. Then we went down to Phoenix, we stayed at a youth hostel, and Clay, we only had like $100. He spent like $80 getting all the ingredients for burritos and to go to the Dead show, to sell burritos at the Dead show. And we got to the Dead show, it was at the end of it. Literally, it was a weird thing. Nobody wanted any food. Everybody walked by us. And it was like misty and foggy. It was misty and foggy. It was weird. Everyone was in a weird vibe. They all walked by. Nobody wanted any burritos. I mean,
they're coming down.
We probably like sold a couple. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, at the youth hostel, we met my friend Tim. And when we were getting ready to go, he's like, where are you guys going? And we're like, we don't know. We think we're going to go all the way up the coast of Cali. And we're going to like go through Vegas. And we're going to go see all these things. Maybe feed homeless people in a truck. He's like, can I come with you guys? I'm like, sure, man. And so he came with us. And so we had an incredible time. We met all sorts of amazing people. We met this guy named Little Star in Santa Cruz. And all he did was walk around in a white robe. And he lived in a tree.
Wow.
Yeah. And he took us to one, it was like some sort of religious service at one point. This guy, Master Know Me, there's no me. He was meditating in front of all of us, and he literally, when we were looking at him, he like disappeared at a certain point.
No.
Yes.
Were you high?
No. No. It was a crazy thing. It was like,
wow.
He was like rippling in space.
Dematerializing.
Like, dematerialized, came
Celestine
back.
Prophecy mode.
Crazy stuff. Yeah, and that was big back then. But anyway, so then a certain point we got up towards Eugene, Oregon. And we were staying in Eugene. It was like can't remember where we were staying there. But we went towards where the university was. And Tim remembered Ken Kesey lived out there. And so he said, let's call Ken Kesey and tell him we're doing an interview and we want to come out there and see him. Because Tim studied filmmaking.
Mm-hmm.
And we weren't really going to do that, but he just thought it'd be a good way to go
Excuse.
see him. Yeah. And so we call him up on the phone, and that was back before iPhones. And they had a phone in the school building, whatever it was, call him up. And Tim says, hey, Ken, could we come see you, blah, blah, blah. He didn't even miss a beat. Ken gave him directions to his place.
Nice.
Yeah, and so we get out to his farm, beautiful big farm. I mean, you've been there, which is awesome. And we pull in, and his wife was in the main house. It was like a restored barn. And she said, we're here to see Ken. She's like, he's out there in the workshop in this little outbuilding. And it was his video studio. And he was doing stuff about earth changes in this thing called Twister. Anyways, they open the door. He's there. He says hi to us. Then Ken Babbs, who was another merry prankster, stands up and recites this really long limerick to us. It was very funny. It was just like off the top of his head. He had it memorized, you know. And so, yeah, it was incredible. They were doing things on earth changes, you know, things that were happening with the environment. And they were getting ready to go to Fillmore West to do the show. And they were going to have people spinning in the audience and this incredible stuff. And they were going to take the bus. They were going to take the magic bus down there.
The further bus.
Further bus, yeah.
And this is the 90s, right?
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
Early 90s. And so then we, let's see, we had a great time hanging out with Ken. And so we went back to our place that night. And at the time we had been joking about, you know, in Star Trek, and it's funny you brought that, they had an episode where they land in San Francisco. Captain Kirk and Spock, and they're talking about LSD. And I think they call it LDS, like Spock does. And so that was our long-standing joke between the three of us. We're like, should we go back and ask Ken if he'll give us some of the LDS from the 60s? And Tim and I were more a little shy about it. And Clay's like, hell yes, let's go ask. So we had to go back anyway because I left my jacket there. And Clay went in. And sure enough, yeah, Ken gave him a postcard of the bus further, black and white drawing. And on the back was 3 tabs of purple haze LSD, which I believe was the same stuff from the 60s. It was incredible. And we're getting ready to leave. And he says, where are you guys going? And we're like, well, we're just going to keep going up the coast. We're filming Free Willy 2 up in the San Juan Islands. Maybe we'll go be extras or whatever. And we had this idea, we go be in Free Willy 2. And then he said, well, you're welcome to go stay at my cabin. You know, Sunshine stays out there once in a while. And if you ask my wife, she'll give you directions. And I'm like, that'd be awesome. So, yeah, we ended up at his cabin. It was right on the coast in Oregon, right on the cliff. It literally felt like it almost could fall over the cliff. You know what I mean? And it was a huge rainstorm. And it rained like all night and all day. And we decided we did LSD. We did the LSD that night. And it was incredible. Small, tiny cabin. It was just a bed. A typewriter, where I assume he wrote, by these corner windows where he could look out. A record player at the head of where the bed was, and they had 3 records, the kitchen and the bathroom. And the 3 records were Around the World in 80 Days, Graham Nash Songs for Beginners, which if I listen to that still, it just puts me back in that place. And then some orchestral thing, maybe from a movie or something, I can't remember. But
what's the second record?
Graham Nash Songs for Beginners.
Grand Mass Songs for Beginners.
Graham Nash from Crosby, Stills and Nash. Graham Nash, yeah.
Nash from, okay, gotcha.
And it's a great record.
Okay,
love
nice.
it. Yeah, and we played those over and over again. And so the experience was amazing. At one point, Tim became almost like an Indian, and his whole body was like undulating like this. And Clay had put like a shirt on his head, like a turban or whatever. And he was looking at me, and I was looking at him, and it was like we were reading each other's mind. And we're both looking at Tim, wondering if he's going to leave the earth. We thought he was going to float off the ground any second. And he may have, because he literally looked like he was going to fly, you know?
Yeah, got to keep him away from that cliff.
Oh yeah, 100%. No, for sure. And then at one point I was on the bed and I had a globe and I went into some laughing episode. I swear I was laughing for like an hour.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
And
a
I
great.
felt like I was a child actually spinning the globe. And I think I had a vision too of like a blue child in the river Ganges. I don't know.
Krishna.
It's interesting. We did stay at some Krishna temples on our trip too. And we would do that. They would feed us for one, which was amazing. We'd get an incredible meal and a tapioca pudding after. And all you'd have to do was in the morning, you could get a place to sleep too. And in the morning, we would do the chanting. So you get in the thing and walk around, you know, in the circle or whatever. But the funny thing about Clay was he was highly spiritual, high vibration, also kind of like a little bit of a con artist in there. I think his dad gone to prison at one point. And but in a humorous way. So we would get to the Krishna temples and we'd tell our stories, and they'd say, "What's your name?" And he would say, "Krishna Das." And they'd say, "Krishna Das, how'd you get that name?" And he would say, "Well, I grew up in a Krishna temple. My parents were both Krishnas." So the funny thing about that is that at the time the movement was only maybe 30 years old. And so then he's in his 20s, so they saw him as like this incredible person. Because who was ever raised in a Krishna temple? A lot of those guys probably wish that they had been. You know? And so then they just revered him the entire time we were there.
Wow.
Yeah. And then his other funny thing is he would never say goodbye to people. And so we would just disappear. And what he would do is we maybe were doing the morning chanting or breakfast or whatever it was. And he'd be off on the side. And I might walk by him and he would say, "I'm choosing to continue my journey right now. Do you choose to continue it with me?" And I'm like, "Clay, why are you talking to me like a robot?" And hell yes, I'm going with you. Where else am I going to go? You're going to leave me here with these guys? No. I'm coming with you. And so, yeah, we would just keep traveling, you know.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was fun.
That sounds like a beautiful youth of wild exploration and psychedelia and letting spirit teach you about life.
Yeah, it was so much fun.
How is your current spiritual journey the last few years now that you're like a quote unquote adult in an intense chapter of human awakening and development?
Yeah, for sure. So, well, I think that my defining thing, well, I wouldn't say it's my defining thing, but like losing my wife this past summer was huge thing for me. So, I mean, we were married for 30 years. Just a huge, I mean, we were soulmates basically. We had that farm together the last 10 years. And so I'd never been through something that type of loss. It's traumatic loss.
Yeah.
And the way it happened was very traumatic.
Was it quick?
I mean, she got diagnosed with cancer in the spring. And by summer, she was doing her chemo treatments and things like that. And so I was taking her every day. And the kind of sickness and illness that you go through just from the chemo was so intense. And she was such a fighter, and the way she went through it was incredible. And she became very, very light. Sorry.
It's okay.
Very angelic. So I think that's a very grounding thing when you go through something like that. But she was a very angelic person, very giving, very Christian. She would just love on people so much. She would give like abundant love towards people. I mean, like love bombing. And she would find people that like literally she would just meet. Next thing you know, for months storing presents for them for Christmas. It might be a family that might not have a lot of money, you know. Or maybe they were, you know, okay, but they like one family that she befriended, the kids were full spectrum, you know, things going on. But with her gifts, she had spiritual gifts where she would really, God would like literally tell her, this kid wants to be an archaeologist, you know. This is the type of gifts. And his parents wouldn't even be aware of that necessarily. And she'd get like this whole chest of all these archaeology tools and like a leather bag that looks like it came out of Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like it's it's an incredible collection of things. And the next thing you know, these massive boxes were shipping off to this family. And it would be a huge blessing to them. And then next thing you know, these kids would be using this stuff and they're out, you know, like on these nature hikes and these things like that. And so she was incredibly gifted like that. So losing her and the way that it all happened was incredibly traumatic. I mean, she passed suddenly after finishing the full chemo. It was a day after.
So she beat the cancer?
No, I mean, we wouldn't have known.
The process.
It was going to be some time, you know, to know whether she beat it. It was stage 4, so it was, you know, in her lymph system. And then, but she was feeling tired. She asked me to put her to bed or help her upstairs. It was like 6 at night. And yeah, suddenly it was like, I think it was a clot to her lung. So she was gasping for air. She was in so much pain. She was asking for oxygen. I called the ambulance. They were taking forever because we kind of lived in the country. And then the worst sound I ever heard coming out of her from the pain. And then she said, "Bye now, bye now." And I was like, what? So anyway, so yeah, that sucked.
Yeah, I could imagine. Yeah. I'm so sorry for like, I hope you don't mind me bringing it up.
No, yeah. So in terms of spiritual journey, so been processing that, and then family and friends came very close to me. My sister, I hadn't seen in a long time, came with her kids. My sister stayed for like a month. She brought her kids up like another 3 weeks. I mean, she's helped me a ton. Old friends, like my friend Big Mike, another assistant that we had on the farm forever, who apprenticed with me for a while, Dawson. He was a huge help. And yeah, it's just a long process, a lot of grieving. And then I met friends in Miami who installed my sculptures. That took me in like family when I moved to Miami. Johnny and Judy, and they're incredible. And she's from Cuba originally, and he's from Argentina originally. And they grew up in Miami, but her mom is a psychic, actually, and she is part of Afro-Cuban religion. And she did a reading for me at one point, and then we did a service for Carolyn.
And she incorporated the spirit of your wife, right?
Yeah,
like she was able to open up her vessel for your wife to come in and interact with you.
Yep, so I got to say goodbye to her, like physically. She hugged me like Carolyn would have, which was amazing. And she did a whole service. And that really helped me process a lot of things. That's
so beautiful.
Yeah, helped me process.
And that's beautiful of you, that you would be like open-minded enough to believe that such a thing is possible in a world that probably would tell you like, oh, that's not real, but you felt it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm open to everything, honestly. Like, I'm pretty wide open for stuff. And as soon as, it was so funny because meeting Judy and Johnny, it was incredible. I mean, that was a God thing, because literally before I even met Judy, the way she spoke with me, like on WhatsApp, and the way she conversed, everything was like family, you know? And then, so, and then meeting them in person the first time, we hung out all day. We just had lunch, and the next thing you know, we were together for 5 hours. And I'm like, she was speaking things into my life, like, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, you're going to do this. I'm like, damn, Judy, are you psychic? Like, are you intuitive, or what is going on? I'm like, you're psychic, I can tell. And then she's like, well, actually, I'm very intuitive, but my mom is a psychic. So that's what I heard about her mom. But yeah, they adopted me, and then later on, you know, we did those services, and then most of her family would, you know, they're bilingual, but like family dinner, they speak Spanish mostly, except for Johnny and Judy. I mean, they would go back and forth. So they invited me to Sunday dinners, hanging out at their house. And it was awesome. It was awesome. Very healing, you know.
It's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Sometimes it seems like in life, we can look back. You're in your 50s. Well, right? You're in your 50s?
47.
47? Ah, okay, sure. And we can look back at the decades before. It's like, wow, like I've lived so much. I've hitchhiked around the West Coast, and I've got all these steps, and here I am. but at the same time, we can look forward and be like, I'm just beginning. Like right now,
100%.
I'm being reborn. And yes, I had a chapter with a farm and my wife,
Yeah.
and that will never die. That will always live in eternity in my heart. And
100%.
here I am being born into a brand new version of existence.
Yes.
You know, regardless of age or stages, and what blessings does life have for me now? And what
Yeah.
blessings do I have to give unto others with this new rebirth?
True, 100%. No, it's interesting you even say that, like the rebirth thing. So, yeah, it's incredible. Even like meeting you guys is awesome. And then,
Likewise.
and then meeting like Jenna and Nicole. So it was funny because the day I was moving here, they never had peacocks in their yard before, but 3 of them showed up. And so the 3 of us together are 3. And then they had the 3 peacocks, and they're usually on a different part of town, a Gulfport. And so if you look up peacock symbolically, it's rebirth. Symbolizes rebirth. And then since then, I've seen them several times. But yeah, no, I think, yeah, we're always changing. Nothing ever stays the same. I do feel like those moments do live on eternally because we're all energy. I too do totally believe in vibration. Literally, like, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, I started consciously manifesting using meditations. Then I found where I was actually applying my, listening actively and trying to manifest, which I think I've been manifesting for a long time. Obviously, making sculptures is a form of manifesting.
Yeah.
But I hadn't and then I kept getting promptings. You need to follow your intuition more. I'm like, I'm already following my intuition a ton. And then I realized, well, maybe I need to actually listen to things on manifesting and try it, And so, yeah, I've been doing that lately. That's like a spiritual practice. I don't know what else. Like taking Lulu to the beach every morning for me is like a spiritual practice, I think just trying to be in the moment, being aware in the moment of things that are going on, being emotionally available to people. Like when people are struggling, try to love on people. Or being at times vulnerable when you need that for yourself, and then to be open for that.
Yeah, I feel like
yeah.
you already were doing good, because it seems like you're like I see you, a new friend, but I see myself in there too. Like we're just like, fountains of creative expression, and we're just trying to like do what we can to get as much out, and some will actually
Yeah,
become
for
a sculpture,
sure.
others will fizzle away back into infinity.
Yeah.
And here, once again, you've brought into former Atlantis, St. Petersburg, to create a new
Yeah.
little pod of spiritual expression. Maybe this is like, your peacock stage, or you could create
Sure,
a
man.
character with like beautiful tails, or who knows what.
Yeah,
but
I mean, I think this place is really magical. You feel, just every day there's some sort of new magical thing that I see, even just walking around in Gulfport, in this neighborhood that I'm in, the way people have lit things, the tropical plants, just these houses all being like from the 40s or 30s. Everything just feels very, in Atlantis. I think when you had said that the other day, it feels like there is Atlantean energy here for sure.
do you believe first, do you believe in reincarnation? 2, do you believe you've had former lives, and what echoes, what's your vibe with your past lives?
Yeah, no, so that's interesting. So I think, I've never been one to be actively try to figure out, what was I in the past, or what will I be in the future? What are these past life things? I think like I've really, I talked to channelers, I've talked to psychics, things like that, but I've never, for some reason, I don't know, I've always just been like, put like a little, maybe like a boundary around this life, like just focusing on this life so that
Let's
I'm
focus
not
on
distracted.
Ken.
Yeah, so maybe I'm not pulled in other things that may or may not be real, or who knows.
Unless if it's relevant.
Where it comes from. Yeah.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is this year, like, I've run into people and had connections with them, and then I've heard people say, oh, maybe that's like a soul contract you had with them in a past life. Or, things like that. And Yeah, and my cousin Patty is like a psychic. She's been in shaman school to be a shaman.
Cool.
And yeah, she'll come to visit at some point. But yeah, I definitely feel like, yeah, we've probably had past lives. We're all energy, and we're never going to be destroyed. We're just going to keep changing into different things. And, you know, we already always were, and will always be, you know, so.
It's a beautiful way of observing life.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure, for sure.
As we celebrate your life today on your birthday. Woo!
Thanks, man.
Looking
yeah.
forward to going
Yeah,
out
you're
for
right.
dinner later tonight.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
And before we say goodbye to the people watching our show, would you have some? A lot of them are artists. Other people just like learning about the interesting people I get to learn, meet on my path. But
Yeah.
what words of wisdoms would you have to people who might be looking into your personal world right now?
Yeah, words of wisdom. Let's see. I think honestly, probably the best things that you can do in your life is follow your heart, follow your dreams, follow your passions. Like, we all came here for a reason to this life. What is it that was put inside of us that we feel in our heart that we're here to pursue? You know, and I think early on, as a child, you start to discover those things just through those things that attract you. You know, what is it you want to do? You want to draw, you want to race, you want to do sports, whatever it is. And just try to give yourself the permission to do those things. And and I saw a quote about that more recently, but the more that you follow your passions, the more those passions get inflamed and end up becoming your life. So for instance, if you're in a phase of life where you have your passions, you got to do something else to make a living perhaps, or whatever it is, but your goal is to be doing that passion as you're living, something that's going to sustain you. I think the more you're able to just keep doing your passions and fueling it, then the more in time that will take care of you.
Totally.
Yeah, it just gets bigger and bigger.
It seems like you're a person who doesn't really let fears get in the way of your ideas and artistic creative desires. What's your relationship with the what ifs? Oh, what if I blow all my money and then I can't pay the next project? Like, does those things ever enter your mind? And what's your relationship with them?
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, I think it's impossible. Well, it's probably not impossible, but it's really hard in this world to not. Of course, you're going to have to concern yourself with money and making a living and things like that. So, what are my concerns with what is? Yeah, I'll have those phases. Well, being an artist, you don't know where the income will come in next, you know. But then again, that the manifesting thing, which I've been doing lately, helps you focus, sort of break those things that might have limited you in the past about how you think of money, how it works. If I'm a vibration and money is a vibration, if we're on the same vibration, then it's an endless amount. Getting past that idea of scarcity and things like this. So yeah, I'll sense it myself sometimes. I could definitely get fearful about money. As a guy, as someone who's been a provider for a family, those are things that, of course, they hit you at a gut level, you know. And then being on my own, maybe it's less so because I'm not having it, but I'm still taking care of my dog, I'm taking care of myself. And I've probably been a little more free-flowing with, you know, how I do things. But, yeah, you just kind of have to, like, say, okay, I see I'm afraid of that right now. Let's think about that in a different light. How can I reframe it? And you know what? You're always provided for. How do I just continue to stoke that fire, my faith of knowing that provision is coming, even when it looks like maybe it isn't, you know?
That confidence and trust is such a valuable gem to hold.
It is. It's a huge valuable gem because it keeps you from fretting or self-destructing, doing foolish things, you know?
Ironically, the fear of what bad thing could happen is what attracts the bad thing to happen.
Exactly. 100% correct.
So we gotta recognize the fear and be like, All right, fear, I get you're there. I respect you and you got a
Yeah.
purpose. I'm going to put you right here. I'm going to hold on to trust better.
Yeah.
God, no, or creator or spirit, has
Yeah.
put in this fire in me. I'm going to go along with trust and be the fool and step into the abyss and cliff and know that the bridge will show for me to shine.
Yeah, 100%. No, it's interesting you use that hand analogy of holding something, because I remember a teacher I had having an analogy like that. So the fear, if you identify it as yourself, it's basically your hand. It's like what's in your hand, but it's your hand too. And so you kind of have to look at it and then see your fingers on it, and then just visualize each finger sort of opening up, and then you let go of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's interesting. Then you put faith in your other hand, and then like turn your attention towards that. You're right.
Mm-hmm. It's beautiful
Yes.
visualization.
That's a great visual. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Well,
Yeah.
good job believing in yourself and for always following your heart and manifesting
Yes.
beauty in this world
Thanks,
that
man.
needs more beauty, may it be physical or vibrational.
Yeah.
And
And I think loving yourself too is a key thing. Loving yourself. So I think that's something I've been learning in this manifestation, these meditations, as I talk about the importance of loving yourself. Well, of course, I think I love myself. Yeah, I've loved myself for years. I've been in hedonistic lifestyle at times. I do all these different things. I must be loving myself. But then I didn't realize till I was listening to some of those things, I'm like, damn, Ken, you're really freaking hard on yourself constantly. And I think as artists too, and I see this with my friends, where they're just, can be so hard on yourself and then loving towards other people. So if you're loving towards other people, you might forget that you're being hard on yourself. But
Yeah.
I think you need to, it's a key thing. Some of these meditations have really helped me. And you have to really just keep loving yourself. Give yourself that love. Give yourself that permission to be like, you know what? I don't need to be a workaholic. I don't need to be the grindstone doing this all day. It might seem like that's how it's supposed to happen, but actually no, I'm going to give myself permission. I'm going to try something else. I'm going to create this, create that. I might just rest.
right.
I might take a nap. I might do whatever.
Yeah.
But do those things to take care of yourself.
It's a vibrational thing, I find, because if you love yourself, then just like a relaxation where I'm like, okay, let's put the guard down, and now let's expand, and now I can feed others. While, sometimes when you're like, oh, I kind of suck, so I'm going to kind of be a little bit more contracted, but I still got the nature to love, so I'm going to just give my love to others. But it almost I feel when we love others, can be like a cop out. No, for sure. If you love yourself, then it's easier to love others. But sometimes, I find oh, I'm not feeling good. I'm sad. But I can go and make somebody else happy, and maybe that'll be the way to kind of make up for not making myself happy.
Right. Or you can love others to your own detriment too, where you all you do is just give of yourself so much to your own detriment.
Because it becomes unbalanced.
It's unbalanced, yeah. Or I don't know a good example of that necessarily, but it's interesting. Judy's mom had said that, keep your love for yourself. Until she said that, I'm like, that's a weird thing to say.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, aren't I always doing that? But then I realized, no, I was definitely going through phases where I was just giving all my love away and then not keeping any for myself. So it's an interesting thing. Yeah, you're constantly learning,
It's I find a Taurus field. You are curving in that donut of self-love, but then naturally it can't just be contained and you explode and pop, the amount of love. It has to come out, and then you're overflowing with abundant, expansive, giving energy, because that's your nature and it's flowing through you. So yes, you're throwing it in, but then it naturally wets everybody else around you.
It really does. And what's interesting about that too is, for the longest time, I'm like, I'm doing this art. Well, I'm doing the art. Originally, I did it, honestly, because I needed it just to be mentally stable or feel like I was, I needed that to be soothed or whatever it was originally when I was doing art. And I still need that sometimes. But honestly, then somebody said, well, you're doing all this art for you. And I'm like, really? Because felt like I'm doing it. I'm wanting to put joy in the world, so I'm kind of doing it for other people, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, no, you're doing you're doing it for your joy, to make yourself happy. You're doing this art. It's for you, and then that goes out to other people. So it's you first.
Because you're not disconnected from the
I'm
world.
like, that's. I never thought about it that way, but I'm like, it's kind of like the self-love thing. It's true, you know.
Yeah, well, you are an individual in the world, but you're also the world itself because you're an ingredient of it.
Universe. Yeah,
Right.
we're in. Yeah, all one. The universe, right?
So I don't think making yourself happy is a negative thing as long as you're not taking somebody else's happiness in order to feed your happiness.
True. No, 100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can just like find your ways to be balanced and happy, and
Yeah.
once again, like add that vibration around, and everything is connected, even if invisibly. So it's
True.
beautiful service to do to be a happy, positive person.
Yeah, 100%.
And on top of it, we do art, and it's colorful,
Right.
and people are like, "Oh, my house is pretty and cool now."
Yeah, exactly.
It's almost like a byproduct, you know?
Yeah, you're right. Actually, it's kind of a byproduct. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I always, see art. Like, art's my life. I love making art. I like
Yeah.
chasing it and everything. But it's
Yeah.
at the end, I think it's just kind of like the bubblegum wrapper.
You're right. It is.
And then there's the bubble gum, and then there's the chewing gum inside the bubble
Yes.
gum, and I think the chewing gum is God.
Yeah.
And then there's physicality, and then there's appearances and
Oh my gosh, you're right.
aesthetics.
Yeah. No, you're right. Because like, I don't know, when was it? A few days ago, I was sitting in here. Yeah, and the art's great. It's just static though. It's not they're not living, breathing things. Obviously, I mean, it's much more important to be interacting with living, breathing people. You know, connect spiritually with things. So then, but then I was like, at one point I was like, I'm looking at the art and I'm like, all this is really meaningless in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of times I just give everything inherent value. I'm like, actually, it's all really meaningless. And it's especially meaningless if someone you love is hurting.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I had that sort of realization too.
It's all contrast,
You
and
know?
you can look at art as meaningless from a point of view, but that doesn't make it so, because you cannot take away the meaning that somebody else who looks at it, like
True. That's
anybody
true.
else can be like, that means.
But just for the moment it was for me, you know what I mean? But yeah.
Well, they say like art is really useless. You don't do anything with it.
It is. It's so funny. People say art is useless. And then you'll hear like people that are rich or, what's your most important thing you did this year? Like, who was it? Like a governor, I think, in Miami, who was giving some speech, and he's like, most important thing I did was go to all these art fairs and become an art collector. And because it put him in touch with all these other people that are doing similar things. I mean, that's one aspect of it, like that financial thing. But I'm sure just spiritually and for other reasons too,
Well, creativity is a spiritual activity.
Because the meaning of life. To me, it's the meaning of what is life if you're not like enjoying it and seeing creative expression of it.
Right. Well, God is the maximum creator.
He is.
And he made us in his reflection. So we're like mini gods creating our little universes. And here's your little.
Yeah, we're co-creators with God, and he's enjoying it, and we're enjoying it.
And he's
then
creating
what's
through
awesome-
us too,
And then you also see the incredible variety in creation. I mean, hell, just go like swimming in the ocean. Put a scuba mask on and see all the fish that are under there and the coral reefs.
Fuck yeah.
And everything else. I think Timothy Leary at the end of his life, I just met actually it was David Lynch's daughter was here doing her hair with Nicole. She got dreadlocks
No,
put in.
really?
Oh yeah, Jennifer Lynch. She was incredible. We had the same birthday. It's her birthday today.
Oh.
I gotta wish her a happy birthday. Anyway, she was friends with Timothy Leary and lots of other people. But she said in his older years, he was just tripping so much in scuba diving. Looking at all the colorful fish in the reefs.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I did mushrooms in Indonesia once and snorkeled.
Oh my gosh.
And it was really fun. It was a beach, what was it called? It was the one after Bali, Tralala, Gili Tralala.
Yeah.
Gili Tralala. And you could walk 10 steps in the water, and then there was like a cliff. So right away you were in the
damn.
corals.
Oh, wow.
So I didn't have to go far to like just go in and then go down. And then I'm like floating around with all the fish all super tripped out. And I was doing this thing where I'm like going upside down and putting my
Whoa.
feet to the edge of the water where
my
like
gosh,
right before it turns
cool.
into air. and I feel like
Whoa.
I'm like stepping on the air world, but and I was
That's awesome. I love that. Yeah.
I did a little painting about
You're
it
in the
later.
other world, man.
Yeah.
Aquatic life.
But yeah, we could keep on going on and on, philosophizing about the nature of reality and our role in it. But I feel like if we're just going from the heart, everything's okay.
True. I
and-
mean, it all comes back to this, honestly. Outer space, inner mind.
Ooh,
Thank you, Leonard Nimoy.
beautiful. He's still alive, right?
I hope so. I don't know. Is he?
I think Mira's still alive. You'd think like William Shatner's still alive, so there's you would think it's
I
the
don't
same.
think he's ever going to die, William Shatner.
Wow, he's an immortal.
He is.
Yeah, he's probably like an alien that's just playing human for a temporal time.
That's true. What was that saying in Star Trek? Like going to the next frontier or something? I can't remember, but
Yeah, the final frontier.
the final frontier.
Yeah.
There it is. Space.
Do you believe
final frontier.
humanity will get to a version that could be similar to Star Trek lore, where humanity kind of became wise and we just go around the universe, kind of like checking things out? What was their mission on? They were just making sure that all the planets were running correctly without shit shows?
Yeah, maybe so. That could be what their thing was. I mean, I guess like in quantum, what is it, like metaphysics or whatever, it already exists, that whole version of ourselves.
All the versions are
all
possible.
those versions are happening, and so you can do that quantum leap between them.
All right. Well, I want to go to Star Trek timeline where humanity
go.
woke up, wisdom up, and then we go out and explore the universe.
I like that version, definitely, man.
Let's do it.
Let's do it, brother. Yeah.
Thank you so much,
Awesome.
Ken.
Thanks, brother.
I appreciate your time.
Yeah, it's so great.
Yeah, it's so nice. And thank you guys for
Yes.
watching another episode of Chris Dyer's Creative Friends. Make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. Once again, big
Yes.
thanks to Yak Snacks for supporting this show, and I'll see you next time. Blessings.
Blessings.
Woo. Next episode, Luke Brown.
That flow state condition that for me, being an artist, is what I'm wholeheartedly devoted to.
Yeah.
I see a byproduct of that condition is a fluidity of reality and a more streamlined, serendipitous synchronization of just optimal reality. What's going on here? How did you access this? I can't tell you how many times I've encountered variations of that for me just give me this feeling like there's another level of orchestration behind this, that by just succumbing to the flow state condition as a priority, that there's another dimension of intelligence that inserts itself to just guide the process, to be uplifting and beneficial to the collective life experience. That's really what it's about. It's not about personal acquirement and gain and boosting yourself up. It's how can I make this the coolest experience for everyone around me, and to be a cosmic cheerleader for others' experience. Like that's
I love
that's
that.
the reward.
That's so beautiful.
So please make sure to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Big thanks, and see you next episode. Peace.